So, I mean, it's kind of like pizza. There's no like terrible pizza because it has like carbohydrates and it has cheese on it. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a little plotting getting there, but we got what we came for. Hi, everyone. I'm Amy.
I'm Simona.
And we are the Caffeinated Librarians. Welcome. Today, I am going off script because I don't remember the script and I've taken every allergy medicine in the house. So I apologize in advance. So today, we'll be talking about Just Say Yes, which is on Netflix. And that's all I know. So I'm going to turn it over to Fact Girl.
Hello. So Simona over here. So this is a 2021 Netflix Dutch rom-com. And basic premise is about this woman named Lottie who finds that she's rather unlucky in love and romance. And she works for a publishing company I guess it's a publishing
I think
company.
it's a production, like a TV channel or a production company, something like that. Yeah.
And basically, she was engaged to this gentleman named Alex, and he royally sort of calls off the engagement in front of all of her coworkers and devastated.
Well, and on live TV.
And oh yes, it's also on live TV. So yeah, so it's sort of it kicks off from there, and she is one. Well, actually, she only has one sister, correct? Estelle.
Yes.
Okay. So she's basically the frumpy sister, I guess, of the pair. Estelle, who I think is her younger sister, is like a social media star. She's very much into fashion, and
Mm-hmm.
and poor Lottie is just basically there.
Right. And I mean, she was also, I think she was the ugly duckling, and then like she got a bunch of surgery so that she was not plain anymore. Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, she's social media, Insta everything. And she's got a few good friends, like both of them do, which is weird. Like they're very different sisters, and yet they have the same friends. But so yeah, so she's, and then she has this new guy at work who I'm not in love with either. Who, in typical romantic comedy fashion, has a scheme for her to win back her jerk boyfriend slash jerk fiance. Um, and she winds up falling for him instead. Um, and I had there were some issues with this movie. just
Okay,
just to start off.
let's take it from there. What were the
Okay. I had a lot. First of all, this who is this movie going to be marketed for? This is for women. This is for women who like romantic comedies. I am a woman and I do like romantic comedies. And it was fine, but it really lent it really leaned on like on all of these tropes. It was there was not an original aspect about it, and that's fine. Even with romantic comedies, you do want a little originality, but it was just everything was the same. I felt like, and everyone was a jerk, like only the protagonist was like at all reasonably decent, and she had real lapses of judgment that made her unlikable as well. So I really had trouble finding a lot of sympathy for everyone.
Yeah, I can definitely see what you mean. I mean, both of the love interests, although I don't really consider Alex a love interest. I mean,
No, because he's a turd.
Yeah, I mean, at one point, after Lottie goes through her makeover, because John, who's the new guy in town, so to speak, basically decides, I'm going to help you win back Jerky McJerkiston,
Hmm.
because why not? He's
Right.
actually the man for you.
Which
And
is a really common plot,
mhm,
that everybody is trying to get something out of someone else, and they scheme together and accidentally fall in love, which, and that's fine. It's fine.
yeah, so I mean, so he basically tells her, just follow along to my lead, 30-something-year-old woman, and I will help you land this guy. And
Right.
what I find interesting is that the main actress, and I cannot pronounce her name, and I don't want to butcher it. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't
Yolanda,
I don't even remember it. Her character's name is Lottie, though, so we
yeah,
could go with that.
I'll go with Lottie. So the character Lottie itself is not an unattractive person.
Oh
She
gosh, no.
Yeah, I mean, she dresses very comfortably for her position. Now,
Right.
she is probably one of the more dressed down characters. Like if you look at her boss, uh,
Right.
John, and a few of her other coworkers, they are like semi-casual. She's the only one that's really, really casual. Which I guess
Right.
makes sense because if you're running around, you're mostly behind the scenes. I don't really think it matters how you're dressed. But
Right.
that becomes like a point of issue where the reason why you're having such a difficult time in life is because you're not dressed a certain way. So they have that montage.
Well, I mean, but I have to say, like he said, uh you've got, like, I don't remember what he said, but it's basically like you've got good material, but it's not packaged correctly. And it was, and the idea that all anyone really needs to get the guy of her dreams is the makeover. Like, if that is really what is holding the guy back from being in love with you, I have a problem with it. Like, if the lack of like stupid tight clothing and hair and like makeup is how you're going to get the guy that you lived with back, you don't want him.
No, and I think also, I mean, maybe one of the sort of takeaways from this is that Lottie is convinced that Alex is what she needs. That's a
Right.
possibility,
Right.
and that's why he sort of says, John, I will follow your lead. So she basically gets this epic makeover montage of her trying different outfits,
Mhm.
getting
with
a hair.
him
Yes.
like cheerleading, as would be the part of the stereotypical gay friend that's in most romantic comedies. He kind of filled that stereotypical gay friend role, in addition to being a love interest, which was like one of the like very few things that I really kind of enjoyed about that he's a charming masculine dude, and yet like he can go shopping and like help somebody get like a banging wardrobe. And that's not a side of men we typically see in these movies, if they're not, if they're not stereotypically gay.
Yeah, and I think usually that role is also often filled by another woman.
Mm-hmm.
Another
Mm-hmm.
woman sort of doing that. So she gets her epic makeover. She's feeling herself, and you see her, she's walking into the
Right.
office, and like all heads are turning, and Alex goes, whoa, what did I give up? And he basically approaches her, and also the whole goal is that John is basically telling her, don't immediately give in to Alex's demands, like make him wait, don't be
Right.
too
Right.
eager. So she's following like a rule book, so to speak, of what to do. And essentially it works because Alex's interest is peaked because, now that she's not frumpy, he realizes how beautiful she is and
Right.
he wants her. and he proposes to her once more.
Right. And that one is like in the way she wanted and not
And,
like in the way like he wanted, which was just like, I'll invite your friends over so they can watch me propose. And
yeah.
I don't care what you look like for it,
Mm-hmm.
which is something I did want to talk
Mm-hmm.
about, these kind of surprise engagements.
Sure.
So I don't, is this the time for it? Is
That's
now the
fine.
time?
That's fine.
Okay. Um, like I love romance and and that's all well and good. However, unless you're really good at planning those things, it it winds up becoming more about like you as the proposer than the person you're proposing to, because like you're gonna look spiffy, because you're getting engaged,
Mm-hmm.
but the proposee, and I'm specifically, I'm deliberately trying to agender this, because everyone can propose to everyone, and I feel strongly that women should be able to propose to men, and that should be getting more and more like comfortable for everyone involved. So, but I did, I had problems with, like the surprise engagements because of that. And I've seen that in real life too. Like there's just such a performative aspect to these big public engagements that go viral. What is your goal there? Is it really for the person you're proposing to, or is it for, you know, everybody to see how awesome you are?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what bothers me too. It's the same thing with like the gender reveal parties, how it's like they become these epic Instagram affairs and it
Mm-hmm.
annoys me. And the same thing with proposals, because and I think it's honest because we're sort of living in a time when if you haven't documented how many times you pooped on your social media, it's like the world can't continue turning. So like with a lot of these like proposals, that's what I feel it is. I completely agree. It's like the same thing when people complain about the size of their engagement rings.
Right.
Whatever. Honestly, for me, I don't care what my engagement ring looks like. What matters to me is that I'm going to be with this person for many years to come.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if I don't have an epically large, diamond on my finger. And
Right.
I think that's another element to this thing is that a lot of it is based on the materialism, the showiness. And like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what also bothers me about these epically public proposals. Another thing also is that what if the woman says no? Like
Oh yeah, I know.
yeah, I mean, you've seen, moments when like a guy's proposing it, like he's chosen to do it at a game. And I think there were viral moments where the girl said no, or like the girl, ran away. And I'm like,
Or said yes, and then like the follow-up was like she broke it off, because like
yeah,
I don't think I could say no. Like if everyone was around, and I
yeah,
mean I feel like you really, if somebody's that surprised by you proposing to them, you may not be ready to be proposing. Like, there has to be, you can't just be like, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, and the other person like is just on a completely different page. They're really like, I'm a big proponent of like endless communication. um and but I think it's important, if you feel ready to propose, you should have a pretty good idea that the person you're going to propose to is at least going to consider it.
I know, yeah, that's the thing that always like it surprises me too. Is like, did the other person not realize this was the eventual goal? So
Right.
it always makes me uncomfortable for the person who's proposing and for the person that has to either accept or reject it.
Hmm.
Which is why, FYI, if I ever got like involved, like, listen, epic, public proposals, no, like just do it privately, you know, because it
Yeah.
puts you in a spot unless you're strong enough to say no. If you're like in front of a crowd of like people attending a baseball game, you may very well say yes because you feel the pressure to do so. So
Right.
yeah, definitely not a fan of public proposals.
Yeah. It's that's a tough, it's a tough sell. Um, I just as an aside, there's this, I saw this went viral. This guy asked the proposee's sister if she could video him proposing to her, because he kind of wanted to have that,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't so he could like put it on social media. I
Yeah.
don't think as much as like she would kind of want that moment, and having had that point in my life, I do have a picture of it, and like I don't know if I'd want a video. But I definitely want something. Um but uh but he wanted to propose to her like in this like in this kind of wooded area that they like to hike to, and so she like dressed up as a bush, so so that she could take pictures,
Okay.
which was kind of spectacular. So like, after, and the sisters are super close, so she was happy to be there too, even if she was dressed like a bush and just with a camera. It was kind of adorable and awesome. um but it the idea that anyone would like to be surprised and you've never discussed these things is a little scary. um but I have notes, I'm going to go to them. Everybody's trash. Like I have so many notes that say like, why is everybody so awful in this movie?
Well, the one woman that I did like, I think her friend's name is Juicy or who's
Hughes, I think. Hughes. It is spelled with a J, but it sounded like everybody kind of like, it's kind of like a Spanishy,
Juice. Okay,
like Hugh, kind of.
I'll go with you. I'll go with that. The one who's basically married to the guy that played the
Yeah,
phones, and
I liked her too.
there was an epically funny moment when she's trying to seduce him and she's wearing roller skates. Ah, it's so funny.
Yeah, don't seduce people in roller skates.
And she's like
Uh,
backing off, and and then she falls and impales herself on like an Eiffel Tower Lego.
yeah, yeah,
Sorry, I know
poor
she was in so
poor
much,
thing.
but I found that so funny. Where she was like, "How many times have I told you to clean up your Legos?" And she's being rolled in. I'm sorry. That's just the moment I had to do a shout out for because
I
it's
know.
hysterical. Oh my god! Like you could almost like I was watching like, oh my gosh.
She did have, I have to say she had the best the best role, because like, and then she's like drunk and on ecstasy, and the bear is like conversing with her. Like she has this giant teddy bear that she's gotten from somewhere, and she's just talking to it about her feelings, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, yeah, she was definitely like I really liked her character.
Mhm.
She's also like an example of someone who's been in a relationship for a long time, and the spark has sort of gone out of the relationship.
Right,
She's
right.
desperately trying to kindle it. With her husband, who her husband I wouldn't say is mean. He's just a little clueless. I think he doesn't
Hmm.
realize that he's probably neglecting a certain aspect of his wife's life. But I was happy that that does change.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, but she was one of the funnier ones.
definitely.
Estelle, I guess I sort of warmed up to her.
Mm.
after her epic failure at her wedding. I think like I sort of warmed up because you saw that behind the mask, she is a person of intelligence. She can care for someone. She's not completely vain. Because
Right.
I had a hard time liking her. I was like, okay, Estelle, you're not. I'm not in your corner here.
No.
But
No.
but afterwards, because she is engaged to marry Lottie's boss.
Right.
Um, but then like on the day of the wedding, there's that epic confrontation between Lottie and Estelle, where basically Lottie says, you knew that, surprise, surprise, her fiance
Mm.
Alex is having an affair with, was that Estelle's friend?
Yes.
Okay, because at first I couldn't remember if that's Estelle's friend.
Yeah,
Basically,
that was like Estelle's like best friend slash maid of honor
oh, okay. Yeah. So basically,
slash like lackey. Like she
yeah,
was
yes,
very, very much what's her face? Estelle's like sh- like apologist for the I can't think of like how I want to put that, but like she towed the Estelle line.
exactly. So basically, Lottie finds out, Lottie confronts Estelle, and then Lottie blurts out that Estelle sort of vacuumed up the ashes of her fiance's dead first wife.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of becomes a deal breaker. He basically walks away, and then there's that montage of her crying, her
Right.
thinking back to where she messed up. Lottie goes to Estelle, and they actually have a true moment where they're actually talking to one another
Right.
and relating to one another on an intimate level. And they sort of make up, and they said, we're sisters, I love you. It ends well for Estelle, thankfully. She gets her happily ever after.
Yeah.
Lottie eventually gets hers. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it is like a typical kind of rom com. I mean, it could almost be, I mean, if we didn't know this was Dutch, it could easily fit into the pattern of like an English language rom.
Yeah, for sure. Like
Um,
I didn't realize that it wasn't until people started talking, and I
I
realized it was like not, not like it was dubbed, and I was like, well, this is clearly not from the US then.
You know what's so funny? I must have forgotten because I started watching. I was like, wait a minute, so they aren't speaking English. This is a foreign language. I was like, oh well. Just basically continued from there. I completely forgot. Um, but if you had to compare it, because I'm not really a rom-com person, I'm not opposed to romance, but it's just not a type of genre I really watch. Is there like an example of the genre like that you really enjoy where even though it has certain tropes, it sort of works with those tropes in a
Hmm.
way that ultimately makes the film better? Like, do you?
Yes, yes, I do. We were actually before, well, you were having technical problems. Um, Lewis and I were discussing like good romantic comedies, and I haven't really watched a rom-com, like many rom-coms in recent years, because I just don't watch a lot of TV anymore. And when I do, I tend to be watching Marvel because I am currently trying to go through the entire Marvel cinematic universe. So it's taking up a lot of time. But like one that I did watch recently, and I tried not to watch this because I was so just kind of disgusted by the plot line. It's Rebel Wilson and Liam Hemsworth, and it's called Isn't It Romantic? And
Oh,
basically Rebel Wilson was heavy at the point where when she made this movie. I think she's kind of tried to get slimmer. I don't really know where she's at with that, but um she's like very anti-romantic movies because they're not for people like her and her mom in her like a beautiful like Gen X like terrible parenting moment. her mom like came in and was like, these movies aren't for people like us, like read as like, heavy and average looking.
Mm.
um so she kind of makes that her battle cry, like that these movies aren't for me, and she thinks they're silly, and she goes over like every single trope in romantic comedies, like, there are always two women in the office that absolutely hate each other, and like she goes through every single one, and then like a little bit into the movie, she she gets mugged and hits her head trying to get away from the mugger,
Mm-hmm.
and she wakes up in a romantic comedy, like as the main character in a romantic comedy. And like, and her apartment is huge, unreasonably huge, and she has like all of these shoes in her size, and her dog is nice and pays attention to her, and like all of these things that you see in romantic comedies that don't necessarily reflect life. Like everybody knows like the friend's apartment. Can you imagine affording the friend's apartment even with three people? Not so. um so the unreasonably large apartments, the stereotypical gay friend, like everything. And she's she's adorable. Like the whole movie is just adorable. However, she is the only heavy person in the whole movie,
Mm-mm.
which might have been an oversight. But like if you're trying to say like this is for everyday people, this is, that you can fall in love with your dream guy, and your dream guy or girl might be right in front of you the whole time and they love you back, and it's adorable. But I wanted to throw something when I saw like the whole cast is dancing at the end of the movie in the during the credits, and it's like, wow. She is literally the only person that is overweight in this whole cast.
Um, was that maybe perhaps intentional or
If it was not a good thing to do. I don't think it was intentional, because like if that was the way you were gonna like cast a movie about like somebody who's like normal human being looking now, because normal human beings in the United States do tend to be on the heavier side on average, so that they picked like from Hollywood casting calls for everyone else, and they were like, we need a we need one fat chick. Only one though.
who would answer the call? Um,
Right.
I think
So
now that you mentioned this movie, I thought there was a YouTube channel. There's a YouTube channel called, I think, The Princess and the Scrivener, and it's these two girls, and they do like reviews of films and other topics. And I think one of the YouTubers, I think the one who calls herself the Princess, I think she may have spoken about this film, and basically the idea that almost like she was saying, and she uses this term, that fat girls are deserving of love, and I
mhm.
he wants, I think, that sort of representation. And I think I'm pretty sure it's this film that she was talking about.
I
Um,
mean, I think I would say that that is a good bet, because there were a lot of things about Isn't It Romantic that really, really made me upset and angry for all of us fluffy people in the world that are deserving of love, and not only are deserving of love, but are deserving of, if we're making it, if we're making a like a fantasy movie, you know, I guess it's good that they're showing kind of the stereotypical fat person treatment, but it was still painful.
No, definitely. And I know like there's been discussions because like couples who I think they call them mixed weight couples.
I've
Like
never heard this. That's fantastic.
there's always terms coming out. I think they call them mixed weight or something like that. And there was I don't know if this was maybe 2 years ago, and there was this woman and she did this sexy shoot with her boyfriend. Now she did the shoot in the middle of a swamp, and like
Oh, I
okay,
saw
maybe
that. It was weird.
yeah. And the woman herself is very beautiful.
Mhm.
She was wearing lingerie. Her boyfriend, I think, had his shirt off and wearing jeans. I'm not exactly sure. But anyway, she got in trouble and I think was terminated from her place of employment because they were saying that her photos violated their policy regarding like employees and how like basically when you're an employee of us, you represent our company, you represent our brand. Now the
Mhm.
argument was had she been thinner,
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking.
would they have made the same issue?
Mhm.
Part of me that loves to believe in fairness and justice would like to say yes, but there is a possibility that because she is a plus size woman,
Right.
that made it a bigger deal.
Well, I mean, also just as a
Hmm.
this is a plus size girl problem.
Yeah.
If you are a plus size girl, especially if you are plus size in the upper region of your torso, things fit differently.
Hmm.
And so somebody wearing the same dress with a less abundant uh upper torso would have no problem pulling that off. Whereas like if I went and I work really hard to not represent my company or myself in a bad way. And it's hard to find clothes that are professional and womanly and actually have coverage. And like people could be like, oh, well, hey, why don't you wear a button down shirt? Because if you're endowed in the upper part of your torso, they don't work that well. You know, there
No,
are all these problems with dressing a big body. And one of them is that it's hard to find things that are covered to the extent that you might need.
hmm. Yeah, and the reason why I brought up the shoot
Mm-hmm.
was because the whole idea of like with these mixed weight couples, and I think what I do find too is that a lot of the celebration around mixed weight couples tend to focus more on plus size women with, I guess, regular size men, more so than plus size men with regular size women.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the whole movement to celebrate plus size bodies kind of ignores men um,
Mm-hmm.
in favor of women. And I know that there is this organization, they have a cute little, like that sexy image that you see in the back of cars, like the female silhouette, like that
Mm-hmm.
bumper sticker
Mm-hmm.
thing. They have one for men, like plus size men, and businesses how plus size men are sexy too. So
Nice.
definitely in this conversation in general, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've ever seen a rom-com that centers on a plus size man. If there is, please.
Well, that's just every sitcom.
Well, well, where they're not like the center of like derision or like they're the fat friend that is constantly eating because overweight people, we're always shoving things.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, if we're not like shoving things in our mouth, we're like the sidekick friend to give advice to the super good looking guy. And if our listeners know of any films that are rom-coms that center
Right.
around a plus size man getting the woman of his dreams, let us know.
Mm-hmm.
So even that, when we do have plus size women, I mean, I don't know how many rom-coms have plus size women in them, but I think plus size men tend to be ignored in this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so yeah, I can't really think of any romantic comedies that I mean, I haven't seen too many, and I can't think of any offhand that I did see that I really liked or I thought was done really well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I can make a good like this is why Just Say Yes fails, and this is why this did a better job of it.
Right. Well,
Uh,
I mean, I think that if if you're watching a good romantic comedy, like hallmarks are, there's more originality. Like this, you could directly locate where all of their plot points were coming from, you know and their try for originality was that she was a producer, but it's like, okay, so it's Bridget Jones' Diary because she's getting like constantly publicly humiliated. Okay, so we had that, and then I can't remember, like there were a few others that other reviewers pointed out
Well,
that like there this was grabbed from.
Fritz, I think is her boss. Fritz, the boss with the bad breath. There were
I
there
don't remember, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Fritz or bad boss with bad breath. There
He's
were many,
horrible.
I know there were many instances where he said extremely inappropriate things to her,
Yes.
which bothered me a lot. And I don't know if that was meant to be a commentary on women within the workplace, because there are many moments when, like, even when she's pitching her ideas, she says what this, like, she says something that John would say the same thing, and Bruce was like, "Yay, John, excellent idea," you
Yep.
know. And John almost, I mean, you could see he would make faces that he was displeased, but he never basically says, "No, this wasn't my idea.
Right.
This was Lottie's idea." And it's not until when they really start to get to know each other and when their sort of romance is starting to really come around that they co-create this idea for the just say yes, like
Right.
about weddings or whatnot, where she presents her idea to her boss and her boss is in love with the idea,
hmm
and she's finally getting recognition for what she's doing and for the fact that she is intelligent, she is capable of coming up with original ideas.
hmm
So, and I'm assuming that was meant to be a commentary on women on the workplace. I really don't know. I don't know if it was meant to just sort of say she can't take a break or catch a break in any aspect of her life. But those moments annoyed me. But yeah, it's one of my favorite parts was when she's talking to that gentleman on the bench where she's narrating the story. And the guy who's basically there to be her personal cheer is like, "Yo, you're right. Oh, your friends are terrible. And how did you do
Yeah.
this?" And I liked his character, because
hmm
he's basically the audience sitting there listening to her tell her
Right.
pretty tale. Um, so yeah, I mean, honestly, actually, I wouldn't say I have nothing to say, but speaking with you, we always find things to say about something. So
Yeah.
I'm always proven wrong. But yeah, I mean, if this is the kind of thing that you enjoy, you may very well enjoy Just Say Yes. If you don't mind,
Right.
I mean, every genre has the tropes. It goes without saying. But if rom-coms are your thing, you very well may enjoy Just Say Yes.
Yeah. And like you're like, I'm all about the end, like that's why I watch romantic comedies, like because I need that happy ending. And even though I don't watch them as much anymore, that's why I always watched, because like you need that fantastic kiss at the end, and there's a fantastic kiss at the end. So
Mhm.
I mean, it's kind of like pizza. There's no like terrible pizza because it has like carbohydrates and it has cheese on it. And like, so yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a little plodding getting there, but we got what we came for.
Yeah, and you put it very well. Essentially, you will get what you want at the end of this film, which is, that, the girl gets the guy, guy gets the girl, they're meant for each other and they make
Right.
it
And
happen.
it's a good kiss. Like, and they do two, because one is like a daydream.
Yeah.
And so you get to enjoy that twice, which was nice.
Yeah. So I guess what I'll conclude is saying, as I said before, if rom-coms are your thing, you will enjoy Just Say Yes. You will be satisfied with the conclusion, and it is on Netflix.
hmm
So if you really like it, you can watch it multiple times and enjoy the moment over and over and over again.
You can also watch Isn't It Romantic? I don't remember where I watched it from, but I believe it's a pretty popular movie and it has a pretty famous cast. So um, it's probably pretty easily available. Um, but you could watch that. You could also, Ali Wong, who is a stand up comedian and very funny, wrote the script for, I can't remember what movie it is, but if you look up Ali Wong romance, you'll find it. And she's always fun to watch as well.
Yeah, so like I said, give it a watch on Netflix. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to talking with you next time. So everyone stay safe, stay well, and just have a great day.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.